to Tuesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. We had a few hiccups tonight with guests. People got sick, went to the hospital, but we're here. We got some outstanding guests for you, some topics to talk about. And we welcome you to pull up your chair and watch a while, listen a while, weigh in and give us your thoughts. It's trivia night. That means we're going to have something from Lauren Meadows. We'll talk about that. And he's got more prizes to give out. And a couple of people had sick relatives at the last minute and had to go to the hospital. But the always reliable Fran Spirit standing by. And we get an extra night this week with the Iron Duke. So stay tuned. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air. Tell your friends and neighbors we are here. Welcome, Dan Bond and others. Here we come.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome to the Buddy Martin Show. We're on 4 nights a week here on this program, streaming live on YouTube and other platforms, of course, on Facebook Live. Buddy Martin Show, glad to have you. Some of you have been with me for 5 years almost. Coming up this year on 5 years on this program. Who would have thought it? My goodness. Glad we can be here and glad you can be here with us tonight. And we can have some things to talk about. We got baseball score. We got other news of the day. Got a few things I'd like to share with you. About insights into people and athletes and how do we judge them and what do we know about them and et cetera. And then as a journalist, I've spent my entire life trying to get to know and understand coaches, athletes, players, whatever, and be able to relate to the public what they are like, in my opinion. And it's been a challenge. It's a challenge right up until today. I just had a major discussion meeting today about that, about trying to get to know the people that you want to know about so we can tell you their stories. And so that's something we're working on. I'm proud to announce we're going to be able to do something special again this year as well. And then, of course, we appreciate all of you. Let's just say good evening to Dan Bond. He was up late last night closing, yet he got up tonight, and here he is, all spry and ready to go. So Dan Bond, always standing by there and waiting in the wings, the next star of Gator Bait, doing really good stuff for us. And let me just mention why I mentioned Gator Bait. I talked to my son Brendan, the president of the company today, about moving forward in Gator Bait and doing things that we want to do and are trying to do, and then we need your support. All of you who support it, who do, in fact, subscribe to it, it helps us. Every dime we get goes into this business to keep it going, which we have now for almost 4 years on Gator Bait. And so we do appreciate it. If you don't know more about it, just go online to GatorBaitMedia.com, click on it, and you'll see how you can sign up and pick a plan that works for you. Brendan and Martin working very hard to get the best available service for you and customer service. We're trying really hard, and we do thank you for those who do subscribe. And we get some people like Franz Beard writing for us and Dan Bond, etc. So good evening to Becky Smith Carlisle. Becky, all these years, we've never actually talked, but I know you. Appreciate you. Thanks for being on. Terry Johnson's back. Terry, what's happening, Terry? Terry, I'm going to talk about it, Terry, tonight. Something I learned about happened at the Super Bowl with a guy I know named Terry, and I think it requires some explanations, maybe things you didn't know. Again, we make judgments about people based on things we hear, say, read, whatever, and then we think we know what we don't really know. And so this is a case of that. So much serious stuff today. Man, everybody's talking lawyers and everybody's talking about the legal problems and the shooting in Alabama, the basketball program, and on. Everywhere we go is another legal case. And remember when sports just used to be fun? Yeah, just a ball and a stick and whatever, and you played and had fun. Man, sure has changed. Toby C. Permitter is always here on Trivia Night, which he is tonight again. Scott Snyder, glad to have you aboard, Scott. Michael Burton, hey, buddy, are you making college football full changes? Yeah, I saw, we have those list changes. You said, let's see what this says. Let me get it right here for you. Said, hey, buddy, are you making college football rule changes again? Yeah. I'm not sure I like them all. Toby, how do you like them? They're just proposed right now, but obviously college football's got some rule changes. We'll let you weigh in on some of those. We'll talk with Franz about them in just a minute as well. Howard Lovering, back to see you. Good to see you, my friend, again, Howard. Michael Burton, just talked to you. Also, Scott Mullis. Scott, where you been? We got you shared, buddy, tonight on the Big J Report. Thank you. Scott, tell your friends out there we're here, all right? And by the way, if you ever run across something called Swamp News, a Facebook page, that's us also. So check it out. And then Brent English, my goodness, look who the cats have drug in. Brent English, dilly dilly, good eating. You know they're old timers when they say dilly dilly, right? So those folks who have weighed in, tell your friends and neighbors we're here. We're going to take a short break and thank our sponsors for making this night possible. And come back and tell you more about what's on our mind and maybe find out what's on yours right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Tell your friends and neighbors we are on the air. This message from Titan MRI.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff. Appreciate that. And thanks to Titan MRI, one of our sponsors tonight, and we appreciate it very much. Yeah, we're hearing from, listen to this, we're hearing from some old friends tonight. Jane Linderman, all the way up in the frozen tundra of Alaska. Hello, Jane. Jane of the North, we call her around there. She's been one of our members a long time. And you'll see her writing something every now and then as well. So, and Perry Mason, that's his name. Perry Mason from Lake Placid, good evening to you. Good to hear from you. Our good buddy Frank Almeida, always good to hear from you, Frank. Big changes coming in the swamp. Well, we'll see what changes are, but there are different. This whole football team is a change to me. Matter of fact, I got on my notepad tonight. Changes. So many things. Changes can often be good, but they're sometimes also alienating, and we don't know what to expect. We fear the unknown. So we're trying to see what is changing. And as the program of football changes, which it has and is, we have to get a grip on who these people are. And this is the second year for Billy Napier and his staff and his cast of thousands, etc. Got another quarterback. I want to talk about quarterbacks at some point. Remember when we had a quarterback who completed almost everything he threw? He came off the bench. We didn't know much about him. And he did fairly well, right? You know what I'm talking about. And the same thing happened in a way when Shane Matthews, we talked about with Shane, when he came off, when he started out in 1990 with Steve Spurrier. We didn't have any idea who he was. The question now, can the guys they've got, like Graham Mertz and Jack Miller, can they step in and accommodate everybody like we think and hope that they will be able to do? And by the way, who are they? Right? We know who Kyle Trask was, and he had a great record here, and we're rooting for him to be the quarterback in Tampa. So, yeah, we have a lot of questions, and changes are happening, no doubt about it. So, let me just finish saying, Alex Perez, good to see you, Alex. Nice to talk to you again. And let's see, who else? Curtis Harrison. All right, so here's a couple of topics. One of the things I want to share with you, which is difficult, and you won't understand totally what I'm talking about, because sometimes they involve controversial people who have controversial stands for maybe good reasons. But we don't put up with much of it. It's like, oh no, he did that, or he did this, or he stands for that, or whatever. He's in this party or that party or whatever. And we don't ever get to know who it is. But when you're a reporter and you're a true journalist and you really care about the heart of the story, who the people are, you want to dig and find out. And it's extremely hard today to get to that. It's harder than ever. I had a long conversation today with someone at the University of Florida about players and about how hard it is to get to know who they are. We don't want to make judgments on them, but we'd like to be able to make reasonable assessments of their behavior, and it helps to know a little bit about them. So I'm just going to throw this out. Getting to know people. And Franz Beard is going to join me in 2 seconds, and he'll share. Here's an example of what we do when we just stick a brand on somebody and don't know who he is. I'm going to make it short. It involves a friend of mine. I have a friend named Tom who did radio with me 7.5 years, and Tom and I did a podcast with Terry Bradshaw every week. And Tom was a big guy. At that time, he weighed right at 300, not so much now. And Terry is a big tease. Terry will tease you about anything. I mean, that's his style. His mother, his brother, whatever. If you got big feet or crossed eyes, he's going to, instead of just looking at him and thinking, wonder what happened to that guy, he's going to say, hey, you look funny, man. That's his style. He does it. And one of the things he used to do with Tom and I and Terry, and I'll bring friends up, we did on what a Nutrisystems diet to see how much weight we could lose. And, I think Tom Schmitz lost 50. But the thing is that Terry would use that time, and he would use that to sort of zing Tom, and he called him Fat Tom. And that was his nickname on the air for 2 years. And while Tom wasn't crazy about it, he understood it, and it motivated him to lose 50 pounds, okay? I tell you about that because of what happened to Andy Reid. I'm going to bring Franz up. At the Super Bowl, after the game, if you saw the post game, I didn't see it the first time. There was a situation where Terry was interviewing somebody, and they brought Andy Reid, the winning coach, on. And Terry's known Andy for a long time. And he said, like he always does. I mean, he would say to Tom, hey, Fatso, or Fat Tom, we call him. And he said to Andy, waddle on over here, Andy. Now Terry, by the way, is pretty heavy himself. And it was men in jest and whatever. Well, he got hammered by the media, especially social media. He's too old. He ought to hang it up. Bradshaw's lost it, etc. And I say, look, okay, have your opinions as you'd like to have them, but keep in mind, this man has been doing this for a long time at a high level. He basically built and saved that show, and now he's fighting cancer, trying to get through it, and doing a pretty good job. I get offended by it. Maybe it's because of my personal relationship. I don't know. Let's go to Franz and see what he thinks. Good evening to you, Franz. How you doing?
Another day in paradise, buddy.
Well, you heard me tell this Bradshaw story, and I know you don't know all about it, but you know Terry a little bit, and I understand that there are some people who don't like that, but am I crazy? Is this something out of whack?
We're living in a politically correct culture nowadays. We used to be able to laugh at each other and things like that. And Terry and Andy Reid are friends. They know each other. And I promise you, everybody else may have gotten upset about it, but I don't think Andy Reid thought anything of it. And I don't think Terry thought he was being disrespectful or anything. I mean, my gosh. Andy Reid looks like a walrus to some people. I mean, he just does. I mean, what was the show? Wally Walrus, the cartoon show in the 50s. Yeah, but I mean, goodness, if Terry Bradshaw had meant something to be offensive, he would have said something. He would have thought of something much better than just saying "waddle on over here." Mm-hmm. Terry is is a quick-witted guy. I know that may shock the fans who thought Hollywood Henderson knew what he was talking about, but Hollywood Henderson is the guy who once said that Terry Bradshaw couldn't spell cat if you spotted him the C and the A.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is Terry is a rather bright guy. He really is, and he's a very, very insightful analyst on that show. And you're right; he saved that show from going down. In fact, you could say he saved Fox Sports and its NFL gamble, because Terry came right in there and just took over. And he still has that personality that is bigger than life. Always has. I get offended when people still don't put him in your top 10 quarterbacks of all time. I mean, my gosh, the guy won 4 Super Bowls, and my goodness, he would. If you didn't see him, you didn't see you missed a great quarterback. I mean, Joe Montana, I don't take anything away from Joe Montana. But Joe Montana, Terry made throws that Joe Montana only made in his dreams. Terry threw laser beams. And you saw him, I saw him, and I'm still amazed at some of the throws he made. He had great receivers, yeah, but there were great defenders too, and Terry made the throws. So I think he's earned it, and I'm just sick and tired of this cancel culture we have.
Yeah.
When you can't tell a joke, you can't say anything funny. Goodness. I heard tonight something about cancel culture, which is the people who are big into cancel culture are claiming that they're for free speech, but they're how can you be for free speech when you're saying that you can't say anything?
Well, that's the point, and that should be interrupting. That is the point, because what if you approach something that's really controversial? How do you even talk about it? I'll give you an example. You know this story. My friend in Denver, Joe Williams, just did a documentary, and they had him involved in it, and it's on a guy named Chris Jackson. Remember who Chris Jackson was?
Oh, yeah.
Makbul Abdul-Rauf. Okay? And you talk about a sensational story, and one that there's no way you don't get to first base. You can't even talk about it because of what he did. And it's too bad, because he was a hell of a basketball player and a good man. And he loved his family, and he came from dirt poor and whatever, and a great player. And in the special, which is on now, called Stand, Shaq called him. Shaq said it's like watching God play basketball. I mean, this guy is phenomenal. And I watched him play in Denver. But, and talking about it, there's no way that 80% of the people on this show would even want to talk about it because of what he did. He took a stand, and I don't agree with it, but it didn't cancel him out completely. He made a decision not to stand for the Star Spangled Banner. It was over. He was before anybody else did it. Now, look, I don't agree with that, all right? But I also think, man, this guy was a special player and a good person. He chose a path that cost him everything. But so I'm thinking, how could you ever talk about anything at all like that on this show? And you can't even talk about it. I guarantee you the 10 people are going to tell me right now, I hate that guy. Okay, fine. That's why I didn't want to bring it up. But when you don't totally understand the people, and I'm not saying you have to take Rauf off the table, take Terry Bradshaw. You understand what's behind him and who he is. And I happen to know him. He's one of my best friends. I'm thinking, what can we even talk about anymore? What can we ever say that where we want to understand and learn and maybe listen to somebody who has a different opinion than I do? It's almost impossible, friends.
Well, it is. I'll give you a good example that hits closer to home. We have Gator fans who will not admit that Tim Tebow had liabilities. He was very fortunate at Florida, and this is not taking anything away from Tim. Tim was a great player, but he benefited from a coach, a head coach, and an offensive coordinator who knew how to scheme an offense around what he could do. If Tim had liabilities, I mean, my goodness, he couldn't read defenses. Talk about the guy that couldn't read a defense spelled cat. He happened when he got to the NFL, and they realized that Tim had such issues reading defenses, couldn't do it. But he was fortunate that he played in the right scheme here. And that doesn't take anything away from his abilities, but that's reality. Yet I guarantee you, if this gets out that I just said this, there are Gator fans that are going to be on social media tonight roasting me.
Oh, yeah. We'll be on this show, let alone then. Yeah, for sure.
For saying this.
Yeah.
And Tim was a great player. But again, like I said, Dan Mullen and Urban Meyer built an offense around what he could do and eliminated the things he couldn't do. And what we saw in the Alabama game after his senior season was Nick Saban realized his liabilities and took away what he could do. And Nick and Tim didn't have the ability to pull the Gators out of that game. I mean, I'm not blaming the loss on Tim. It's just that I'm blaming the win on Nick Saban for knowing what he needed to do.
Yeah. Friends, let me get you on another subject here because you're well versed in it. And I know we can discuss this topic another time. These rule changes, proposed rule, and we got Lauren standing by in the waiting room and Orange and Blue. We'll get him in a minute. But this is just a proposal. I'm going to play this spot and come back and tell you what some of the proposed rule changes are for college football, and a couple of them pretty drastic. So let's hear from Meldon Law. We'll be right back. Time to catch up with our friend Jeffrey Meldon, who's always got his shirt tail in the wind doing stuff, and meanwhile celebrating milestones. Jeffrey, first of all, hello and welcome back, and congratulations. You got a big milestone coming up for your Scholar Athlete program, 25 years.
Yes, buddy, we're really excited. We started it in 1997 with Larry Vittel, who had the Sports Scene show. And after a couple of years, TV20 called us, and we joined up with them and got even greater exposure. And we've now given away over 650 scholarships to local scholar athletes.
When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
All right, thanks very much, Meldon Law, one of our sponsors tonight. France Beer with us, the Iron Duke doing triple duty this week. We had a couple of people who were scheduled to be on who had to go to the hospital, both of them. I don't know, must be the Lauren Meadows effect or something. Anyway, Lauren's going to join us here in a minute. And friends, before I get Lauren on, these are some of the rules that they're talking. Have you read this list? Came out today. These are some of the rules that they're looking at right now. You know about them probably, right? Let's see. I'm going to scroll down and find these. I don't have it in front of me right now. But anyway, they involve a lot to do with the clock. They want to take time off. So Ross Dellinger reported this, and he said that it will shorten the game. Says no longer stop on first downs, a clock. Save the last 2 minutes for each half. Clock would run on incomplete passes after the ball is spotted, save for the last 2 minutes of each half. Consecutive timeouts will be outlawed. Usually ice the kicker. No more untimed downs when a quarter ends on a defensive penalty. So anyway, those are some of the things they're looking at. Do you like any of those? Dislike them? What?
No, I dislike them.
You dislike them or like them?
I dislike them.
Okay.
I dislike them.
Tell me why.
Don't the college game is unique in the way that it's played. I like the clock stopping for a first down. We're talking about kids here, not pros not guys getting paid $1 million to hustle. We're talking about kids. Let the kids be kids. Let them have their own game. It's kind of like making the in college basketball. They're talking about, oh, we need a 24-second shot clock like the NBA. Like hell we do. 30 seconds is fine. It works fine. Quite frankly, I liked it better when we had the four corners. I know a lot of people say that was boring basketball. It wasn't if you were a Dean Smith guy, and I was. And I was. I remember when Norm Sloan had Bill Kretzer, his 6'9" center, dribble the ball at midcourt, and Duke wouldn't come out of his zone. The final score of that game in the ACC tournament was North Carolina State 12, Duke 10. Duke was ranked number 1 in the country at the time. And, I think that things like that, we tinker with the game and we mess it up when we do it. We did it in basketball. We've continued to do it in basketball. And, goodness, these media timeouts. Oh my gosh. I know we got to sell the advertising and stuff like that. But how many times have we seen a team that's really on a roll, that all of a sudden there's a media timeout and they come out and they've lost it? Goodness, let the timeouts be called by the coaches. Quit having these damn media timeouts every time we got to do stuff. We keep screwing around with the games, and the idea is in college football, make it like the NFL. Why? Why do we need to be like the NFL? I mean, next thing you know, are we going to have 53 players on the college roster just like they do in the NFL? I'm sorry, but I like the fact that we have the extra plays. They say, the guy who's pushing the end of the timeout, into the clock stoppage on out of bounds and incomplete passes and on first downs is little Jimmy Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, who I hold in such esteem that I rate him right up there with dumpster divers. Goodness, little Jimmy Phillips. He's what does he got to do with it? He doesn't even have a good league. Why is he promoting changing the league? Is he trying to bring the rest of college football down to his level?
The other thing is, Francis, one of the glaring errors, and we know they've worked on it in the National Football League, is they didn't even apparently haven't addressed the reviews. And that's the thing that drives people crazy. And they've used something in the NFL, which I think is really good, where they just instant review, boom, boom, and get it done. And even the XFL, which I think's not going to make it, but they show you right there as the officials making the decision why he's doing it. I mean, the reviews are the things that drive me the craziest. I'm okay with it. I don't mind. I like stopping the clock, because the art of stopping the clock is what makes the 2 minute. They'll still do that in the last 2 minutes. But the use of the clock, which something, by the way, got butchered this year, is a skillful offensive coordinator's favorite weapon. They're attacking it from the wrong position. So I agree with some of what you're saying, but don't mess with the clock, please.
Well, here's the thing I look at with this. The college game is unique because it does have higher scoring games. I don't want to see NFL games that are 14-13. I don't want to see them. I want to see the college game play like it is. And the reason, and quite frankly, the reason that they're going to do it is because college football on television, they can make sure it fits in the time frame. ESPN has too big of a say in football as it is.
Well, they own it.
It has too big of a say in college sports as it is. And quite frankly, I think that that's wrong completely. You want to solve most of the issues with college football, make it, open it up to competition. Now, I will agree with something you were just talking about, and that's instant replay. I don't think we should stop instant replay, but I think this: if you can't make a decision in 2 minutes, then that's it.
Understand. Yeah, understand.
You know, we have a play clock in between plays. Okay, we got 40 seconds. What is it from the time the ball is spotted? You know, after a play, there's 40 seconds to break the huddle to get to the line of scrimmage and call a play and get the snap. Okay, give the officials a play clock too, 2 minutes, and if they're not smart enough to figure it out by then they're not smart enough to change.
Well, the XFL has that
outcome.
rule. The XFL has a clock on the officials, and they have to call it by a certain length of time. A lot of good comments from people. Dan Bond says, convinced the rivalries are going to be gone too. And that's the thing, that when you start talking about change, which is what this whole thing started with, change, we're for certain changes. But when you start throwing out the baby with the bathwater, if you start looking, everybody wants to know who are the three rivals you're going to take. All right. I defied you to make sense out of this. I've got a list. In fact, when I bring Lauren up right now, and we'll do this with him, and then we'll do his trivia, but I wanted to say this is the thing that concerns me, is that I don't know that I trust the people, you know, that's what they're doing with the game. Are they going to throw out some of these great rivalries? They can't, I understand expansion and need it and all that. Anyway, here's a couple of things that we can get Fran squared away in that middle circle. Franz, you're in the middle of the Hollywood Squares. You got to get a little tighter in there, Franz. You're off to the side. Good evening. Good evening to you, Lauren. There you go. That's better. Lauren's in the hole. Lauren looks like he's Shaq, like he's what's the name of the little guy that played basketball, the guard that was played for
Spud Webb.
Spud Webb, and Franz looks like Shaq. And that's crazy. All right, so here's the deal. Good evening to you, Lauren. We're going to get to your trivia in a minute. All right, so here's the deal. We're making all these changes, which we're just talking about. We're not happy that what they're doing. And one of the things that's the most controversial, and we don't even know yet exactly who are going to be your three permanent rivals, right? Now, I can give you yours and whatever. Let me give you one list that came from CBS Sports, okay? I'm going to say Florida to the end. All right, so Vanderbilt gets Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ole Miss. All right, that's just under this three. Texas A&M gets Texas, Oklahoma, and Mississippi State. All right, Texas gets Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Tennessee gets Alabama, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. South Carolina gets Florida, Georgia, and Missouri. Oklahoma gets Texas, Missouri, and Texas A&M. Missouri and Mississippi State gets Ole Miss, Auburn, Texas A&M. Missouri gets Oklahoma, Arkansas, South Carolina. Ole Miss gets Mississippi State, LSU, Vanderbilt, LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Alabama. Kentucky, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Florida. Georgia, Florida, Auburn, and South Carolina. Arkansas, Texas, LSU, and Missouri. And Alabama, Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee. And finally, Florida gets Georgia, South Carolina, and Kentucky. All right. Who wants to go first, Franz?
Well, I wrote about it today that Florida's gonna, under this scenario, Florida would sacrifice the Tennessee rivalry and would sacrifice the LSU rivalry. Personally, my belief is that I know you're getting away from divisional status, but at least make one, for example, one Eastern team have to play one team formerly from the West. I think that makes more sense than anything else we could do, which in Florida's case, I'd like to see the LSU rivalry stay intact. I like the LSU rivalry. I think even though LSU's won 4 in a row here against the Gators, I still think that it's a really good bell. It's a good scenario for what is Florida doing compared to what these guys who have been dominating the game in the SEC for so long. I mean, you look at what's going on. Until Georgia won the last 2 national championships, the East had not won a national championship since Florida had done it in 2008. So I like the idea that you can measure yourself against these great teams like Alabama, LSU, etc., like that. I like that, and it bothers me that I think that the Florida LSU rivalry is going to get killed, and I don't think it should be.
Lauren, what do you like? What do you like about it, Francis? Is there one you like the Florida, Georgia, Kentucky triad?
Florida, Georgia has to stay. If I had my choice, it'd be Florida, Tennessee. Florida would play Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU. I know
problem
everybody
is,
would.
yeah, I agree with you, but that's not going to be fair to Florida having those three guys, as the top. Anyway, all right, Lauren, you go ahead. Go in.
Yeah, I don't like. I mean, those teams. I mean, obviously Georgia, that's a no-brainer. But I would like to see. I'm kind of with France, but I think I would like to see. I'm more of a regional guy, and seeing as Auburn is the closest school to Florida in the SEC, I'd like to see Georgia, Auburn, and obviously keep the LSU rivalry. I agree with France. You still need to have some cross where the teams of the old East play, particularly teams in the old West, and I think that would be my three. So I would say Georgia, Auburn, and LSU. I do agree with France though. As long as I've been a Florida fan, I don't know anything but the Florida Tennessee rivalry as well, and that one's going to be tough to kind of lose. I have friends that played in that game on the Tennessee side, and it used to be kind of cool to rib them after the Gators would put foot in them, but and still do. But for the most part, but yeah, so that's kind of where I am. And then I will throw in this: I'm with France. France and I, we don't always agree, but we definitely agree on the fact that I'm a purist when it comes to college football, and I wasn't aware of the rule changes, but coming on and hearing that, I'm flabbergasted by some of the the opinions that people think some of those things need to be changed. I think the game is good.
Talk about which ones that you don't like, because Francis already tell you what he didn't like. Which one of the proposed rule changes? They're not rule changes yet. What bothers you?
I mean, you throw a first down, the clock should stop. You get a defensive penalty so that means late in the game, guy gets behind me. And, it's the last play of the game. I can just grab him and pull him down because no one-time down then. I mean, it's some of those things that I know they're trying to speed up the game, but I think it takes some of the integrity out of, calling consecutive timeouts is part of the game. I mean, that's part of the coaching, the atmosphere, understanding, time and down and distance, just all those things go with coaching the game. And, like somebody said, I think earlier, one of the listeners said, putting a headphone in the headset of the quarterback, putting a microphone. And I mean, to me, one of the most purest things in football is when I look across and I see about 7 guys signaling. I mean, that excites me. I mean, and the kids running around doing what they need to do. I think that some of those things need to stay in the game. And like I'm with France, keep the college game the college game. The beauty is of the NFL game is you get drafted and you go and you learn to play the pro game. It's a different game. It's a transition. It's a faster game. The game is played differently. And I think like France said, I think we're working backwards where we're going to lose the scoring in the game and the excitement that makes this game unique. So.
The Archduke is getting a lot of points tonight. You're agreeing with him way too much. I want you to know that. Okay?
That's my guy right there.
Yeah. So just to throw a little wrinkle in here and there, I agree with you on the timeout. You can't have a game in on a defensive penalty. There's no way you can have that can happen. Like you said, drag a guy down. And also, I've never been a fan of the using the timeouts to freeze the kicker. That's something that didn't come into being until about 25 or 30 years ago. That was never considered. That was something that was unsportsmanlike. You didn't do it. And, Urban Meyer was one of the ones that did it a lot. I've never liked that. I know it's part of the game and you got a timeout, use it and try whatever. I'm just not a fan of that. But I do think there's some things they can do on the review. Now, here's the question, guys. Think about this. To try to shorten the game, they think they can get as many as 10 to 12, 20 to 12 penalties, 20 to 12 plays out of the game. That's a lot of plays, all right? They don't want to touch any of the commercials. They won't touch any of those. They won't cut anything on the bands. That's an out. That's a no-no. So now, what do you cut if you can't? Well, you got to take ball plays out, which is unfortunate. But let me just suggest this. It's the total time. It's not just the game itself. There's a lot of time wasted in warm-ups. I mean, a lot of time. Do you really need all that time for a warm-up? Take 5 minutes of that warm-up period and use that for game time, whatever. I get that they want to cut down on the number of plays and the number of injuries, etc. But there's a lot they can do to the game. But I'm with you on the messing with the clock and messing with the incomplete pass and the art of running a 2-minute offense, which they can still do because they'll do it during the last 2 minutes of the game. But I don't know. I'm mixed about it, and I'm concerned. As Dan Bond said, they start messing around, they're going to mess up the game, guys. Are you worried about that?
Of course, I'm worried about it. I'm such a purist that I don't like the 3-point shot in basketball. I liked it back when there was a 2-point shot because I think it has altered the way the game is played, and I don't think it's made the game better because now you got guys out there who are 7 feet tall trying to shoot threes who have no business. Park your butt down in the blocks and score be a man and score. Go up there and try to score. The greatest basketball game I think that's ever been played was the ACC championship game in 1974. North Carolina State beat Maryland 103-100 in overtime. There was not a single charging call. Both teams shot 60%. It was brilliant defense, and yet both teams shot 60%. There was no 3-point shot in that game. There wasn't a single charging call, not a single walking violation, not a single 3-second call, not an offensive foul. And the game was played beautifully and brilliantly, and it was a great ball game. And I watched nowadays, and I watch a team shoot 43s in a game the other night, and I'm thinking, how is this good for the basketball game? That everybody just runs down, finds a spot on the floor, first guy gets the ball, launches. I don't think that's good. And I don't think tinkering with college football is a good idea either. I don't think it enhances the game in any way to take the timeout, stop the clock after a first down. I don't think that helps the game.
All right. Lauren, you guys are awful like the Gold Dust twins tonight. You're agreeing on everything. You agree with that too?
Yeah, I will say this. I remember when I was in the 7th, I think I was in the 8th grade when they brought the 3-point shot back into basketball, and kind of when it came into college, that's when it came back to high school and that kind of thing. But it used to be that the 3-point shot was the great equalizer. Now you could pretty much call it the great analyzer. Everybody's on analytics, and that's why they shoot so many. Because, you got the analytics and that kind of thing. You play the numbers. But, yeah, like I said, I'm of the ilk. I don't even like when they stop it and review, like, hard hits for targeting. I was a receiver that made his living going over the middle. And, I took my lumps and, I got a few loose marbles, but I'm all right, So I think it's just one of those things where I think, like I said, there's everybody's got an agenda. And, like I said, I'm not like I said, they want to put headsets in the headphones in the helmets and things like that. But just the communication that goes on the field in the college game is so pure. It's so, it's just, I think they're, like you said, I don't know where they think this makes the game better other than, like Fran said, to appease, the time so they can get the game started on time and get the commercials lined up and that kind of thing. But if we talk about just playing ball, busting skulls, they need to keep the game the way it is.
All right, good points. All right, look, let me get to this one point. Then we're going to do some trivia. And if Francis has to go, we'll let him go. If he can stay around, great. He was kind enough to fill in tonight. For the two guests that had to bail out because of families who had to go to the hospital, all the best to both of them. we had a
You'd
good.
think they'd be more considerate of that,
Yeah,
take
right.
your family to the hospital
Yeah,
after the show.
on your own time,
Jeez,
not on mine, right? Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah, we all the
I mean,
best in
what
the
are they
world.
going to do? Die on us or something?
Oh man, you of all people know that, friends. You make more trips to the hospital than any human being in the face of the earth, so you know that.
Yeah.
This is a generic question, and maybe one is just pretty boring, but it's on my mind, and I just wanted to get it out there because you all know we're busting it at Gator Bait to get out there and learn about these players and the coaches and what's going on in the program and who they are and who the quarterbacks are. It gets very frustrating sometimes when we can't get our arms around it. We can't get a chance to talk to people or whatever because of a system. I was hoping it wasn't something they were doing on purpose. And I'm convinced now it's not. I had a good conversation today with somebody at the office about getting more access to players, which we used to get. Remember, guys, and we get all the time we were doing our show, which we do Orange and Blue Bloods and do the Gator Collective, but they're not handling it anymore. Anyway, the point is this: is that after a long conversation, I'm convinced we're going to get some time, and we've talked about this, both of us today, some time with certain players, which are going to be able to tell their stories better, which to me is what this is about. Us telling their stories and people getting to know them and knowing more about them. Francis was talking earlier about knowing people and the right take on them and what you know when you know Terry Bradshaw you didn't know, you might have known about this guy. So the more they know about the players, the better it is, the program. So I feel a little bit more comfortable and optimistic. And I'd like to know, what would you guys like to see us do in that regard in this year in terms of getting to know the players? Thoughts, if you got any. We'll start with you, Lauren, and see, let's pass it along. If anybody wants to chime in from the audience, feel free. And we're going to do our best to make that happen.
Like I said, I mean, the purist in me, I mean, it's always nice to know, about, the families and where they come from. But, I've always been a person when I sit down and talk to, whether it's some of the track athletes that I've interviewed or some of the basketball players or spoken with, I like to know, what makes them tick on the field. So like if I was talking to a Ricky Pearsall, being a former receiver, what release moves does he like? What's his favorite routes? More the technical things. What are you seeing? What do you like to do? Track athlete, what type of workouts are you doing? What's your frame of mind? Those kind of things. So I just, really like to get to know them as, what they do and what makes them best at their craft. That's kind of what I like.
Friends, I'd like to see more personal information, like where they're from and their moms and dads or growing up years, who influenced their life, why they made a decision to do what they did, what they found successful, and who taught them, and what the experience is like for them at Florida. Are some of the things we try to bring to light. But now getting to know the personalities, I think, is going to be important. What do you got, friends?
I agree with that. I remember a time when we used to be able to sit down with athletes, or better yet, we got them in the south end zone. They would come in there and they'd sit down in chairs, and you could go talk to people. Then they changed it to where we got to walk with them from the practice field to the stadium, and that was eliminated. And now it's like, okay, we may get a couple players on Monday and a couple players on Wednesday night. That's it. And here's the thing that kills me is everybody in college football is talking about we're seeing declining attendance. Well, one of the reasons we're seeing declining attendance is you got people who don't know who's playing for them. They recognize a superstar, like at Florida, everybody knew who Anthony Richardson was. But I guarantee you there were some really good stories out there of people we don't even know. Sometimes the best stories aren't the guys that are even on the playing field. Sometimes the best stories are that guy that sits the bench who just is dying to have that one opportunity to get in there, even if it's just for a couple snaps on special teams, or, there's 36 seconds to go in the game and the coach sends out all the scrubbinis and they get to have a snap or two snaps. I've talked to so many kids who say that the most memorable moment of their entire 4 years in college was the 22 seconds they got into a basketball game, or the getting to have a couple of snaps in a football game, even though the score may have been like 55-0. They were out there and they could say, yeah, I was on the field. I got to play in a real game. And we don't get those stories. And they're real stories, and they're good ones.
Another way to know about learn about them is to have trivia questions, by the way, which we happen to have on this show. We have the king of all trivia. Do you know how many times this guy's won trivia night at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill? They quit counting. I think he's barred. I don't think he's allowed to participate anymore. And he's finally gotten so good at it, they barred him from doing it, and now he just does his own. Here's his trivia question. Ready to tee it up? Let's see, friends. Don't answer it. We'll tell us after it's over. Here's the question.
Lauren Meadows with Gator Bait Media coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill with Tuesday Night Trivia. Who is Florida's all-time leading passer? Once again, who is Florida's all-time leading passer? Be the first to answer. You'll be entered into our drawing for swag from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and other prizes. With Gator Bait Media, this is Lauren Meadows with Tuesday Night Trivia.
Doesn't look like Lauren Meadows to me. Are you there, Lauren?
Yes, sir. I'm I'm showing the people different facets of the restaurant too.
I got you.
Doing some marketing.
I got you.
At Spurrier, so that's the people can actually go on and vote for those names. So
good, and thank you for doing that. You do a good job on that. And by the way, let me say that. Let me clarify. When you say leading passer, there's a lot of ways of saying. Is that touchdowns? Is that yardage? Is it percentage? Exactly what do you mean by leading passer?
That would be yardage. Who was thrown for the most
yardage? Okay. Yeah. All right. France is good at this, better than I am. Let's let the people guess first. It's obviously, give us a few clues, all right?
No. Not fair.
All right. Well, we got guesses already. Let's go with the guesses we got and let people guess out, and then we'll get through. Okay, here's what they said. They said Robert Turner says Chris Leak. Kenny Green says Chris Leak. Brent English says Chris Leak. John Brock says Chris Leak. Scott Robinson says Rex Grossman. Brian Joseph says Chris Leak. Jerry Vitaliano says Rex Grossman. Michael Burton says Danny Werfel. Dan Bond said easy one. Michael Burton says, if not, he is my favorite. All right, so that's all the guesses. And then Toby says Kyle Trask. All right, and then finally, Dave Alfred says Chris Lee. All right, you want to call time in, or is that it? You want to give a couple more minutes, Lauren?
We got enough answers, and it looks like
first one.
Kenny Green with Chris Lee.
First one in wins.
Charlotte
right?
Independent School. Mm-hmm. What's that?
First one in is to win. A lot of people guess it right. Yeah, it helps a lot when you're able to play 4 years. If you played 3, like others could only play 3, it's really not an unfair comparison. But certainly deservedly so by Chris Lee. Probably the single most underrated quarterback, friends. Would you say that in the last 25 years, Chris Lee?
Well, he won a national championship, so
Yeah.
I gotta say that he's a pretty darn good quarterback, in my opinion. We've had 3 quarterbacks that have won national championships, and he's one of the 3.
Doesn't have a statue though, and he is he's not usually mentioned first. People will say Tebow, and they'll say Spurrier, and they'll say Danny.
Well,
and by the way, let's don't forget the guy who started it all, and Shane Matthews, who got to get a little credit. So.
Well, Tebow threw ducks,
but
wounded ducks out there, and Chris Leak's pass. I don't know if I ever saw one of his passes wobble.
Okay.
The judges came in and actually Brett English beat Kenny Green on the answer.
Oh, Brett English. He's back. Okay.
The judges from Valdosta,
Okay.
Florida, from Valdosta, Georgia.
We have to have a ruling on that, or what? Can we just go with that officially, or is that
we got? I was sent the official record by proxy. So
all right. So it's official. All right.
It's official.
All right. There you go. All right. So there you go. You got that going on. All right. What do we stand on? Where do we stand on the?
I will say this. Here's a sidebar trivia question. Charlotte Independence, where Chris Lee played, is known for what fun fact, or what are they known for other than foot? I mean, they're known for football, but does anybody know what it was?
Got no clue. Barbecue.
They had the longest high school winning streak.
Okay.
And it was started, I think, when Chris Leak was a freshman. And I think it actually ended at Nippert Stadium against Cincinnati Elder in the Kirk Herbstreit Classic. I was there.
Of course, you would know if it was happening in Ohio, naturally.
One Kyle Rudolph had 3 touchdown catches in that game. Independence couldn't cover him.
Okay, did you coach him or something? I don't know. So here's the deal.
No, we got it kicked the next day against Pittsburgh Central Catholic. So we were there watching the game.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. The guy who recruited him never got a whole lot of credit, friends. Ron Zook.
Yep. Oh, Zucker. People don't stop to consider the fact that 21 of the 22 starters on that 2006 national championship team were recruited to the University of Florida by Ron Zook.
Talk about not getting any credit. He really didn't get any, for sure.
The only one that he didn't. The only one on that team that Zucker didn't recruit was Percy Harvin, the only starter.
Yeah, what a player he was. Well, guys, you've done a tremendous job tonight, as always. Lauren, nice job on the trivia. And Francis, thanks for coming in. I just want to plug you in every night and just say, turn on your computer and just let you talk. Just let them. Here's Franz. Here's the Iron Dude. Let him talk. He's a talking Jesse, as they used to say in baseball. Great job, Francis, and great job to you. What's your name? I forgot now. The guy on the left, Lauren.
Lauren.
I know. All right. So, all right. I recommend to you, not necessarily to the viewers because they won't like it politically, but if you haven't seen the Showtime special Stand by Chris Jackson, very powerful. Politically, it might not light you up, but I can tell you this. And I love the quote by Shaq, who says, like watching God play basketball. That's that guy he was phenomenal. Franz, you saw him play. He had Tourette syndrome.
I saw him play in high school in Gulfport. He was a serious player, and he did it with Tourette syndrome, which makes it all the more remarkable. And anybody who's ever seen somebody with Tourette's, it's like every few seconds or so like that, you have this little tick in your whole body just kind of has a spasm almost.
And people who don't understand it don't realize they think you're acting out or something. Got to be cute or something. So it's a very sad story.
It's like the two most remarkable stories in SEC basketball history are that Pete Maravich scored 4,400 points and he only had the left side of his heart working. You know, how he went all these years and nobody realized that he didn't have all 4 valves of his heart, all 4 sections of his heart working. He only had the left side of his heart.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, he lived and played at that level. And the other one is Chris Jackson, also an LSU guy,
Yeah.
playing with Tourette's. I think the two greatest stories in the history of SEC basketball.
They were great. And by the way, that LSU team I saw that year, it had Roberts and it had Shaq and it had Chris Jackson. Phenomenal basketball team. That's as good a basketball team as ever was on the floor. And I got a chance to see him play when Shaq was a freshman. The SEC tournament was played in Orlando. And I came back and I told my friend Joe Williams in Denver, I have seen the future of basketball. And it is Shaquille O'Neal. He was 17 then. Wingspan like a Boeing 727 or something. Phenomenal. Guys, thank you. Good job. Hey, any thoughts on the game tomorrow night, Francis? It's going to be a difficult one. Well, we're certainly wishing the guy
with Colin Castleton, Florida wins the game. Without Colin Castleton, I would say it would be one of the upsets of the century for the Gators to win this game.
Yeah.
But
can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion when you can use your powers that be? Let him dress and let him take the floor for the starting lineup, even though he can't play. Just so you can bring him off. I think it'll be phenomenal. So,
well, we let Keontae senior night. Just for the opening tip, just like we did for Keontae last year.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay,
guys. Great. I appreciate it very much. Good job. Let me just say thank you, Lauren. Thank you, friends. Don't forget to read these guys in Gator Bait. You'll enjoy it. All right, we're wrapping up. Thanking our sponsors tonight. Thanks very much to Meldon Law, of course, to Titan MRI, and to our friends at Renstar Medical Research. I want to tell you real quick about Renstar, if I may. We'll say good night to Lauren. And Lauren, I'll let you click yourself off. And don't forget, Renstar Medical Research. Proven reputation as a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility in Ocala. Renstar Medical Research brings cutting-edge research to Ocala in areas like Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraine headaches, fibromyalgia, and many other conditions that affect our community. Since their inception in 1998, Renstar has participated in more than 700 clinical research trials, continues to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Back at you tomorrow night, same time, same station on The Buddy Martin Show.